Right, I'm sitting here with Andrew King, or as he's better known now, ex-Mayor Andrew King, and it's good to catch up with you after the election. You were councillor for 3 years, then mayor, so I'm presuming those were two things that were on your bucket list to do. Become councillor, then become mayor. They must have been on your bucket list at some stage.
Well, that was 6 years that I gave back to the city.
Yeah.
You know, as everyone knows, I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
I've had lots. I've done the White House in Hamilton, and New Zealand's been very kind to me, and I wanted to give something back. So
I suppose it's tithing some of your time back to the city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, a number of things have changed from before you got into council to after you got into council. The biggest change has been in the last 3 years. After having talked to you in the past, I get the distinct impression that becoming mayor was because you weren't accomplishing what you wanted to accomplish for Hamilton City while you were just councillor, and that the move to mayor became a necessity for you to help Hamilton move in the direction we are now heading in.
Well, it was never my plan to become mayor, but when I was a councillor, I was frustrated by seeing that we were using creative accounting to make the books look good. We were not rating them properly in a way where, well, the best way I can explain it is anybody can be a mayor and hold rates down by running assets of the city down.
Yeah.
It's no different from owning a house. Stop mowing the lawn, stop painting the roof, stop painting the house. You'll save money in the short term, but in the long term, you've got some big liabilities you've got to catch up on.
Yeah.
And when I came in, that's what I felt strongly as a business person I had to do. I had to fix the city.
Yeah. And anyone who was living here, say 7 years ago, would know that the Founders Theatre was starting to get a bit run down. Even then, the footpaths were not being maintained to what they are now. There's still a fair bit of work to do there, but there's been a lot done in the last 6 years to bring the standard of our footpaths up, especially for people who have to use them on wheeled devices like wheelchairs and things like this. Founders Theatre basically was in a dire state. The Waterworld needed work done on it. I didn't realise until these elections actually how bad Waterworld had got, because I don't have a reason to go there that often myself. But yeah, and so these are the sorts of things that have been let go. It's like having a house and never tidying up. Nothing got done. Now it's a big job.
Yeah, so we were in catch-up. We increased the rates. That was a decision of council. It was unanimous. Every person in council agreed that we needed to increase the rates. Everybody voted for that.
That's something that I find quite interesting, because everyone seemed to blame just you for the rates rise, but in actual fact, council voted on it, and obviously could see that there was a necessity for the rates rise because there hadn't been a real rates rise for quite some time, and something needed to be done to get things heading in the correct direction that we are now.
Well, look, every councillor, apart from one, who was Gary Mallett, voted in the last 3 months ago, in June 2019, to again increase rates by 3.8% after the year before when it was unanimous. And yet it became an election campaign tool that some members used, saying that they would lower rates, but just 3 months beforehand they voted for the rates increase. Yeah. So it's purely electioneering.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing that people just aren't straight up and stand by who they are and what they are. But that's the reality of politics. Look, this is politics.
Yeah.
It's democracy. Losing the election, I'm very comfortable about what I achieved while I was there. Hugely.
Yeah, you've accomplished a lot. Well, one of the things we've now got, Dave Mack had been working on this for a long time, but we now have a train to Auckland. We've got a totally different bus service than we had 6 years ago. We've got free for disabled and free for school kids and off-peak hours.
Free for anyone under the age of 18, any non-school day.
Any non-school day. So that's something I don't think would have been envisaged 6 years ago.
Don't these are common sense things. We talk about looking after the environment. We talk about decluttering the roads. This isn't about having a go at people who drive cars. This is about getting people off the road for those who do want to drive their cars. This is about prioritising the bus service.
Yeah.
And it's common sense. And why all of New Zealand aren't doing it, I'll never know.
And we've now got changes
It
to the
doesn't cost the city
No.
very much at all, because the buses are driving around there with the capital's been spent on the bus, the driver's sitting in the bus, the diesel's being burned, is doing that run anyway through a regional council. Well, when you look at them, there's only 2 to 6 people on each bus. Well,
Yeah.
why not? It costs no more to get people on the bus. And those 2 to 6 people who are on the buses outside of peak hours are probably on a gold card anyway and not paying.
Yeah.
So, we need to get real here.
Yeah. And the other thing that's changed is the facility for cycling has become a lot better. We've got the piece that follows the railway line right the way through. There's the wider footpaths in places like Wairere Drive along there and a few other places. There's the development of the piece up Newell's Road, which will eventually apparently be connected to the gardens. And then, of course, the most latest one is Claughton's Bridge, the changes to that.
But we tripled our budget on footpaths, which had been cut by a previous council to make the books look good. And we had 28,000 faults in our footpaths for people to catch up on. So, like I say, as with my business background, firstly, I knew creative accounting wasn't the right thing to be doing when you're a government organisation or a local council.
No.
Secondly, look after the assets, we play catch up. And I'm proud to say that's how I've left the city. I congratulate the majority of my councillors who supported me. Not all of them did, but the majority of them did, and we got a lot through in the 3 years that I was there.
Yeah.
And so I hold my head high. I'm very proud of how I've left the city. There was a Fitch, the international rating agency Fitch, did a report on the state of Hamilton's finances, which was released on the Friday before the election on the Saturday. And that report said that Hamilton's books were in a stable condition. So that's a very, very good line in the sand going forward to show how that council and that training, finishing in 2019, left the state of the city.
Yeah, because no matter what happens in the future, you know exactly what state things were, and you've done a very good job. And it looks, this might be sounding a bit hopeful, but it looks like the new council that we've got for the next 3 years is full of people who are likely to, or most likely, to continue from that starting point that was created in this 3 years just ended. So you've in your time in office, the council you were part of has put Hamilton in a very good starting position.
Yeah, it could. I doubt you'd get a stronger position for any council as far as the finances goes and as far as the budgeting goes for looking after the assets of the city. All I want going forward for this new council is that they're united. There's a majority to make decisions, and that they continue to take the city forward in a way where they look after the people and continue to allow for growth ahead of time. And I really only want the best for this new mayor and this council.
Because Hamilton is at a I suppose, I don't want to say turning point, but at a point in time where we can lead the way in a lot of things and we can move forward as a real city. Our population's growing. We've got many opportunities for industry and jobs happening in and around Hamilton. We're even getting quite a few more tourists, and there's potential for boosting that because of our location so close to everything. We're not far from Auckland Airport. Potentially we may even have international flights coming in and out of Hamilton again in the future because of our growth. And we're growing in a what seems to be a fairly stable manner at the moment. If we keep a good balance between infill housing and new development on the edge of the city, and that balance is kept and looked at carefully, Hamilton can grow in a manner that would become a very good city with quite a, yes, urbanised centre where people have very easy access to facilities, jobs, everything like that. And those that want to live in bigger sections and don't want apartments can move out, can be out in the suburbs. And as Hamilton grows, I think it's going to attract a lot more people, and in particular it's going to be a jumping off point for tourism and things like that. We've already got a couple of businesses here that are making the most use of one of our biggest assets, and that's the river, which connects to the gardens. So the river goes all the way from Ngāromohia to the gardens, right? And that's a big chunk of area that's really nice. It's a good tourist attraction.
So a lot of this, these things that we've achieved and still working on achieving there, they run across multiple councils.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily one council that can take the glory for what's happened. It's each individual council under each individual mayor or a mayor for multiple trienniums who set the scene, and the next mayor picks it up and continues with the work. They may tweak it a bit, change direction a bit, but generally these things are across multiple councils. And it's the same as my dealing with central government. I started dealing with national government at the beginning of my training. They agreed to lock down a lot of money to open up Peacock that we don't have to pay back. A lot of benefit for it, from it, and for the train to Auckland, but particularly for Peacock, for the national government. And then Labour came in and they picked it up off the national government and continued with it and signed it off and saw it through. The road from Auckland to Hamilton, the highway, the expressway, billions of dollars been spent on that road over several governments. And so from the time the decision was made, with another change again, and third change, and that's happened. The same as councils under multiple councils. Doesn't mean that everything stops dead or that you do a U-turn. It means that the next mayor and the next council pick it up and continue or twig or change, and it's very unusual that there's something gets stopped in its tracks.
And that's a good sign that through two different governments we've kept things moving in the same direction, in a positive direction. And I think now that we've set, or the council that's just finished has actually set the bar and got Hamilton to a given position, I think it's now easy for the next council to at least keep things moving in that direction. And I think looking at the ones that got elected, because there was 5 new councillors that weren't on council before, we look to have a collection of councillors and a new mayor that I think will keep things moving in that. I feel confident that they'll keep things moving in that direction. That's always the scary thing as a citizen when the council changes to that dramatically, is you sort of wonder, Struth, what's going to change? But I think we can feel confident that they're going to keep moving in the direction that was already set over the last 3 years and keep things moving in a positive direction. I don't think, there doesn't seem to be any indication to me that we've got a council that's going to do a U-turn on anything.
Look, either way, it's democracy.
Yeah.
And that's what the election's all about. The people get to choose.
That's the thing. You did your bit.
I'm proud of what I did.
You can be proud of
it's
what
not just myself. Like I'm, as I've explained before, I'm like the conductor of the orchestra. I need the orchestra there to work with me to make the beautiful music, to build the city, to take the city forward. And I had a council who worked with me as a majority well. And I'm very proud of that, of the council.
And I suppose that's the big thing, is the fact that you were mayor at a time when you had a council that worked well together. You weren't stuck being mayor in a council that didn't work well together.
Well, that's when you have a mayor who's a mayor in title only.
Yeah.
And if the majority of the council are undermining that mayor or working against that mayor a mayor basically achieves very little. and I'm proud of the members that I had during
Yeah.
the 2016-2019 triennium who got in behind my vision, supported it and saw it through, and I really am very proud of that, of the majority of the members of that council.
So do you think the citizens of Hamilton can have a far more positive outlook on life moving forward?
Look, I believe Hamilton will continue to flourish and prosper. That's what I worked on. That's where I believe that growth is the most important thing. Without the income, without having your books right, without allowing for new people to come, you're going to end up with housing crises. You're going to end up with crises with your transport systems. You're going to end up with social crisis. And I believe that our council worked well in reading that and moving ahead of things becoming a crisis on housing, on social issues, affordable housing, on the housing trust that this council set up that will outlive all of us, that will go on for 100 years plus, and just some fantastic things that we've set up, as well as leaving the books in good order, as well as opening up huge new growth sales with New Bridge over the Waikato River. So it's just a very, very proud time for me, and the fact that I didn't get elected in doesn't tarnish what we achieved, and it doesn't. And as I've always said, I was in this job. I was a career politician. I wasn't going to be in this job for a long time. I was in this job to actually take Hamilton forward, socially, economically, and with growth. So I feel we've achieved the things that I came in to achieve.
And in this last 3 years, the council that you've been part of has actually achieved a hell of a lot compared to previous years, previous councils. You've achieved a hell of a lot, and I think it's something that Hamiltonians can be proud of and happy about. Do you think moving forward, not just this next term, but I mean future terms, do you think Hamiltonians themselves need to be a little bit more proactive in being involved with the council and taking part in the future of Hamilton rather than just sitting back and only taking an interest every 3 years? Do you think they need to sort of be a little bit more proactive?
Look, I think if the council is doing a good job, then they won't get the negative publicity, because let's face it, when things are going well, you don't get publicity. And if you're not getting negative publicity, the people are generally getting what they expect of the council. That's who they put there. They put the mayor and the 12 councillors there to take the city forward in a responsible way. And if they're getting that, I don't think they'll hear of, what we want to be hearing is that we've got a united council, but we won't hear that, because if we've got a united council like we have for the last 3 years, the people aren't going to hear a whole lot about it. The frustrating part, I guess, is when you've got unqualified people on social media undermining where the council's trying to go with half-truths. But generally I find mainstream media very responsible, and I believe in the last 3 years, particularly the Waikato Times and the Herald to a large extent, especially the local Herald reporter, did a very good job in actually explaining to the people in an accurate way what was going on, the reasons why, and giving balanced view.
Which is actually very important, because there's a large percentage of the population of Hamilton aren't fully aware of all the things that have happened, because they're only aware of the small piece that directly impacts them. And when you get unbalanced media picking on one thing or another, rather than keeping people informed about all the things that happened, I'd say a good half of Hamilton probably not even aware of what's happening in Peacocks. There's probably still quite a few that aren't even aware of the whole changes to the bus system, right? And things like this, because they don't have a reason to interact with that.
Yeah, and most people don't want to get involved. They want to get on with their life, and they want the city to be a city that's being built that they're proud of, a city that they're proud to call Hamilton Kirikiriroa home, and where they don't see bickering and infighting from the council. And that's what we've had for the last 3 years, and that's what we want to see going forward.
Which is good, because the one thing that really shocked me was how social media grabbed hold of the 9.7? 9.7 rates rise, and pretty much attacked you on that issue, when in actual fact it was a decision of the whole of council. Well, a majority decision of the whole of council.
No, it was a council. It was a decision of all of council. Every member of council voted off the 10-year plan, which in the 10-year plan had that rates increase. So every member of council voted for that. And then only 3 months before the election in June, with the October election following, every member of council, apart from Gary Mallett, voted then again for the annual plan and for the rates increase. Okay, well, specifically, all of council, apart from Gary, voted for the rates increase in 2019 of 3.8%. You've got to realise we're building a city here with huge pressures, with population growth of somewhere between 40 and 80 people a week. That's 2 bus loads of people a week. That's a small street load of houses and a new small subdivision we've got to open every week after week after week, 50 weeks a year. It's huge pressures when you're building something, but I'll tell you what, it's a far bigger and far better problem to have than declining population. Because when you've got declining population, you've still got to look after your assets, your streets, your roads, your footpaths, your parks, but you've got less ratepayers to pay for it. So it's a very good problem to have. And it brings a vibrancy and a buzz and an excitement into the city when you've got growing population and when you're opening up new subdivisions, new libraries. The new library in the northeast was opened as well. So
that's right. And the other thing is, it's not a crazy increase. It's still a what I'd call a comfortable increase.
Look, Hamilton is rating at 1/3 of all councils in New Zealand. Okay, so we're not overrating. Our rates are equivalent. The average rate in Hamilton is equivalent to the average residential power bill in New Zealand. It's not unrealistic to be paying for the average house $2,300 a year, which for that you get your roads, your footpaths, your streetlights, your parks, your swimming pools, your libraries, your sewage. In Hamilton, your rubbish, you don't pay for your rubbish. In Hamilton, you don't pay for your water. Don't water meter residential properties. All these things and much, much more are all included in your rates. And it's the same as the average residential power bill in New Zealand, very similar. And that is, we're not overrated. We know we're at the bottom third, or around about at the bottom third of residential rates in New Zealand. So I think we need to hold our heads high and realise we want a city to be proud of. We're building a city for our children and their children, and I don't want to leave a liability for future generations to have to pick up.
And I noticed the sensible candidates during the election never said they promised to drop rates. They acknowledged that they can't make a promise like that, but they would attempt to keep the rates at a sensible level, and also be responsible for how those rates are spent, which I think are the two things that people are most concerned about. It's not so much how much the rates are, but how they're spent and what's done with them. And we're a long way from all the smart-ass comments that used to be made on 7 Days about Hamilton. We're long past, so we don't fit that stereotype anymore. I remember the early days of 7 Days and the cheeky comments they used to make about Hamilton every now and again. And I think they're going to have to stop doing that because
I think they
don't fit anymore.
Look, the project in 7 Days actually became friends of the city during the 3 years that I was there. They were making positive comments. Yes, I don't mind making a joke. I've got a problem with that. But it was a tongue-in-cheek, light-hearted, fun thing. And I admire...
We do the same to Auckland, so...
I mean, the media, I believe largely, the national media got it behind Hamilton during that time as well. So,
Which I think helps give people a positive outlook to it. Especially when you live here, you want to know that Hamilton's going somewhere that we can become somewhere that people want to go to, that people want to work at, that we can be comfortable going, I grew up in Hamilton, I've lived in Hamilton all my life. Yes, I may have travelled or whatever, but I've worked and lived in Hamilton all my life, or most of my life, and know that you were able to accomplish it. You didn't have to, I was brought up in Te Kuare. You go to university in somewhere else, which generally means you're most likely to end up working somewhere else. Because if you come to Hamilton to go to university or Auckland, you're probably going to end up doing your first job in the location where you got your degree, more than likely. Whereas Hamilton, you can be born here, grow up here, go to school here, go to university here, get your first job here, your second job here, and pretty much have an entire career in Hamilton, potentially, depending on what you do, and have access to everything. We've got a damn good hospital here. Yes, all hospitals at the moment have waiting lists and all their hassles with underfunding and stuff like that from government, but looking at all the health boards around New Zealand, our one's actually doing pretty damn good. So if you're the sort of person who lives in Hamilton and needs to make use of the hospital, you can feel confident that's going to be pretty comfortable to do. So it's a nice place to come to.
Yeah, great university, Wintec, private education centres, hospital, just the centre of everything, and affordable. We don't have traffic congestion issues like other big cities do. Affordable housing.
Which you don't know traffic congestion until you go to Auckland.
The biggest thing about Hamilton is the people are lovely.
Yeah.
So, look, in wrapping up, I just want to say particularly thank you for all of you out there who supported me over the last 3 years. Thank you for getting behind growing Hamilton, and just really proud of where the city is, and just want to say grow Hamilton, love Hamilton, araha, kiri kiri roa.
Well, thanks very much for your time.